Okay, I've got 3 o'clock and I will call the meeting to order. Mary, would you give the governor's remote policy?
Yep. So this open meeting of the Town Area Plan Work Group, a subcommittee of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission, is convening by video conference pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. This meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that other people may be able to see you and take care not to share your device's screen. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please silence all phones and devices. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature an opportunity for public comment. If you're not able to participate in the remote meeting, you may also make comments to Megan Trudell to be and request that they be read into the meeting record. Her email mtrudel@nantucket-ma.gov. Henry, your chair, do you want to continue with the roll call?
Yeah. Establishment of a quorum. I'm here. Mary.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Marcia.
Here.
Marianne.
Here.
Mickey.
Here.
No Allison, and Reagan had emailed me she would not be able to make it. Okay, got that. Approval of the agenda. Any additions, omissions? Motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Marianne, second.
Second. Marcia.
Marcia seconds. All in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Carries. Approval of the minutes from the May 19th minutes.
I have a comment on the minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lee, could you clarify on page 2 at the top? There was a paragraph that was read out, but then you have explanatory notes added by plus personnel, ... Were those mentioned in the meeting, or are you inserting those yourself? Because I don't think we can insert content that wasn't present in the meeting.
Well, I did insert it because I thought it was hugely relevant to anybody who read the minutes. But if we want to be absolutely official about it, I'll take it out.
Yeah, and I think it might be useful if you mention that in today's meeting, so we can include it in today's minutes.
Okay.
And thank you for capturing many, many pages of minutes this time around.
Anything else? Okay, motion to approve the minutes as amended.
So moved.
Mary, second.
Second, Marianne.
Marianne, second. All in favor, aye.
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 Oh, opposed? Good. Okay. Mickey and Marcia, you're up.
We're up. Well, I have, does everybody have the progress report number 3 that you could look at the same time that we're speaking?
I can put it on the screen if that's helpful.
Sure.
Okay, are you all seeing that?
Yeah. Can you make it smaller?
Smaller in what sense? I'm not sure how you're seeing it.
Yeah, it's taking up the whole computer. Let's see.
So I think that's on your end.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, Marcia and Mary, as we go down, I bet Mary will scroll to the relevant paragraph.
Okay, thank you. Well, as a progress report, Mickey and I have discussed a lot, and I think if you see down for item number 2, is the short 6-item list right now of issues that we've been discussing and grappling with over, the past year. And I don't think any of those have changed substantially for us, but in getting ready for meeting today, I think what has shifted for us is a feeling that we would really like to be able to, in any number of ways, to support those issues with some more actual data, some more information. As we're dealing with housing, one of the major things that our defined area does is provide housing. It's a major function. And as number one, I've listed the inspiration that as we've begun to take a look at other off-island area plans to get a clearer understanding and definition of how to move to write our component of housing, it's been a kind of a wake-up call, because they include so much supporting data for whatever their recommendations are, what their conclusions, their summary is. And I've noted here one in particular, which was the town of Cohasset. And so even though we understand that area plan is for the entire town of Cohasset, it's quite different than our small area, but it's a small coastal town of Massachusetts. And that is what's just has encouraged us to try to reach out and to gather up some more data to support, or to maybe indicate that some of the issues that we've identified may not be supportive, and there may be others that we're not really aware of, that it'd be really useful to have some more objective data. And I've listed those areas that we've identified in number 3 as demographics, as a lot study, and understanding the housing options. I think we spoke about a little bit at the last meeting, where some of the information I had from Nathan Porter was really wonderful to learn that how many residential lots that we have. But then there were questionable areas like the developable parcels. And right now, I've reached out to Nathan, but we don't really have a strong definition of what that means. And so those are the areas listed in number 3 that we are particularly interested in getting more information about, that would color what we may end up recommending or not recommending. And to that end, understanding that we're just 2 people that aren't in the professional planning profession. I've reached out to and had some good discussions with Megan and with Alan Warden, and also a wonderful commitment to get some help from one of the Preservation Institute students working with Cleary Larkin. Particularly, there's a student coming who really understands how to extract a lot of information from the GIS maps. And so that's what we're looking at. And those are some of the questions that we've come to. And feeling how important that would be to help us get more objective and more specific about who lives in the 1531 residential lots, or how many are year-round, how many are seasonal, and what groups are we serving. And to go kind of like Henry was doing with the lands, the lots to have Nathan to identify where those developable parcels are, because if we really indeed have open land, then I think we'll be back with a discussion about whether or not we all wish to be recommending the development, the construction of more housing on some of those lots. Is that a recommendation? So, Mickey, did you want to chime in anywhere on that?
Before you do, I just note Allison was able to join us. Thank you.
Sorry that I was tardy.
I apologize because my computer crashed and I had to switch computers, so I missed a little bit of what you were talking about, Marcia. But so I've sort of lost the track. But I think
I pretty much finished the list in general of, a progress report of what we're aiming to do from here on.
Well, I would just add that, reiterate, I guess, what you just said is that I feel like, the housing is really one of the predominant uses of our town area, the biggest use in this location. And I think we want to get it right in terms of formulating a plan going forward, and how, the future use and development, if any, of this location. So I think we just need to get more specific information to understand exactly what's going on. And I'm sure you already said that, but I'm repeating it. So.
I have a question. This is Mary Ann. Is not our area the least likely area to get more people year-round, just because our area is one of the most expensive on the island? And if we do identify lots that might be developed in order to encourage local people who are here year-round to live in those places, they would have to be heavily subsidized. Is that not true?
I think that's why we're taking the back seat and saying, let's gather some more actual data so that then we will know more, because we're not just talking about adding more housing, but we've been focused on trying to encourage greater use of the existing housing. And I think with the survey, we definitely learned a lot about the hesitation or the lack of information that many people owning historic homes don't really know what they can do and what they can't do, or what they need to support greater, more housing in an empty house. So we're trying to not make assumptions without some hard data.
Of course, these empty houses are not empty for 12 months, which is a pretty big barrier to overcome, because you can't have local people move into a house for 10 months or 9 months. That won't really work for a family. Unless somebody with a property has a secondary dwelling that they could, for some reason, rent out all year long. I can't imagine how that might work for people who are summer residents.
Well, I think there are many iterations of that, because it doesn't mean the entire house. It could mean a portion of a house. It could mean a bedroom. It could mean a basement apartment. It could mean another structure on the land. But if people don't understand that that could be supported by the HDC or by zoning, they don't understand. And that we had a lot of comments in the survey which clearly stated that they needed help or some guidance or some resource to guide them. And that is another question, whether we want to encourage that, but to encourage it in a way that still preserves the original structure and maintains its
So, Marcia, this is Lee. very specifically to the point that you're making, the zoning definitions, the use definitions define an accessory dwelling, and they define an apartment. And in each case, it's not really just a bedroom in somebody else's house. An accessory dwelling is said to be an independent dwelling with kitchen and bathroom, et cetera. So whatever we recommend, we either conform to these definitions or we say that there needs to be a look at that definition.
Yes,
Because there
exactly.
could be other models of how we rent empty space.
Do you know, it was the most eye-opening example I came across is in the work that I've been doing restoring the Museum of African American History, and one of the will that is dividing that property after Seneca Boston dies. It's about an 1835 division. He's been dead for a while, but you know, what's amazing to me is that it's a very defined legal document that says one child got the west chamber and a different child got the east chamber. And so it was like an early condo. I mean, does anybody do that where they owned it, you know, and it defined exactly that they still had common rights to go to the woodlot or to go to the privy, but somebody had the west chamber and somebody had the upper east chamber. And that's how it was gifted. That's how it was given over, not to one child, but to many in the family. So I think it's just very interesting, as Lee said, in zoning, that it may be restrictive to what we feel we'd like to recommend or support.
You know, I think this is Mary Ann again. Even if you get a lot of data, you're likely to miss things like that which covers my property. When Dick Brooks subdivided what was Brooks Farm on Westchester Street, he actually put a deed restriction on all these properties that there could be no second dwellings.
Mm.
Yeah, and he is now dead. So I have wondered if is that even still applicable? I don't know.
If it's on your deed, it is. Yes, it's a legal restriction
Forever?
forever.
Oh,
Until you get the court to change it.
Sometimes these restrictions expire after 30 years. That we had that on our property when we first bought it.
Well, the one that we also had, Mickey, on our property was a restriction that said that the land could not be subdivided, and we heartily agreed to that. But then I did learn for that particular type of restriction, it was only good for 30 years. So it's gone right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, so first lesson is read your deed to see what it says. The second lesson is take it to a lawyer to see what they say.
Right. But I
But
think
Marianne's right. It's hard for us to pick up that level of restriction on development.
yeah, that's what I was saying. We would miss that.
well, I mean, we could be looking, or we could be looking at particular parcels of land where we just don't, where we think there ought to be a restriction not to add anything to the ground cover, say. But I think that,
I would be a little careful, Marcia, if I understand what you're saying, to look at somebody's property and make a recommendation that
Mhm.
take away their property rights. I don't think that's an appropriate use of an area plan on a property by property basis. I mean, you might change zoning for a group of properties, to allow or not allow something. That might be a proposal, but to look at an individual property, that seems a bit, at least to me, beyond the pale.
Right, right. No, it would be something generated by that particular homeowner, in terms of preservation easements, if that's what they wanted. Yeah, I didn't mean to suggest that we would do that, but there may be streetscapes that we feel are significant enough to note that they're significant streetscapes. Right.
Can we, as a group, not just suggest that the town could encourage? In other words, offer encouragement without being specific about properties or property owners, just in general, that the town could offer some incentives to people to, and specify what they might be, that they would then rent to year-round people. I can't imagine us being able to do any more than that with people's personal property.
Right, I think you can make a policy suggestion. I think that's appropriate.
Joe, I'm got a question, Marcia and Mickey, back to paragraph 2. I think it's all there. Yeah. Very specifically to today's issue, it might be useful to know how many short-term rental licenses we have in the town area.
I agree. That would be a good one.
And who would hold that information?
Town, because the license, the permit or license requires a tax to be paid.
Yeah, I would go to Megan Trudell because she's also the staff person for the short-term rental work group. While there's a pause, that I want to remind everyone and hopefully ease your mind a bit. If you're looking at a master plan for a town, and so the Cohasset master plan, that would be equivalent to Nantucket's master plan. We are not trying to write a master plan for our neighborhood. We're trying to capture the neighborhood's differences from the overall master plan. And I think that, you know, you're right, knowing what to recommend does require some data, but I would just say that, you know, we're not trying to rewrite the master plan just for our little neighborhood.
So Mary, the reason my hand was raised was that was my second point. You've captured it well. However, with compliments to Marcia and Mickey, I think that noting that these data needs would apply to the town area as well as to all other local towns would certainly be within our purview of statement, even though we might not get all of the data that we wanted specific to the town because they might be island-wide.
No, I totally agree. And I tried to explain at the beginning as we started off today that this was not apples to apples. Cohasset master plan is not our area plan.
Right.
The part that is similar is that a coastal small town like Cohasset is very, very similar to the kind of dense urban housing that we have. And you know, while we've had other Nantucket area plans to look at, you know, this really raised the bar for me to look and see that I really didn't feel like I feel like both Mickey and I have had a lot of experience working on the island and living here. So I don't feel that the issues that we were able to identify were off the mark, but I do feel that we just don't have this kind of information that would really be helpful and potentially open our eyes to some other issues that we're not assuming or perceiving is there. So, I mean, there may be, it was just very, very helpful to look and see. And even though I could also tell you that the Cohasset one particularly was contracted out. It was not done by a set of volunteers like we are. They were done by professionals. But they did incorporate a series of public workshops with people in their town to develop some feedback, some dialogue. And so all of it just was inspiring and eye-opening to really wanting to get more information.
I think it's great that you did that. I think what you said is absolutely correct. It's inspirational to see how a similar area handled the challenge.
Mary Longacre, since we've got Mary Ann and Mary Longacre, I'm being a little formal. Is there any interaction between our planning and economic development group and the towns on the vineyard? And the reason I ask is there are certain parallels, namely an historic core surrounded by what one might think of almost as suburban type housing, larger lots, larger houses. And we represent the historic core.
Yeah, I think that, one of my goals is to create more communication between the Cape and Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket in their regional planning authorities. And I think that other people in NPDC also see that. But historically, no, there has not been communication on any level between Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard until last year, when the select boards, and I was there for NPDC, and there may have been some other agencies involved, but all 6 of the Martha's Vineyard towns sent representatives to a Zoom meeting with Nantucket, and there was a dialogue, challenges like solid waste and other things and housing. And everybody at that event thought that it was a great idea that we swapped out notes on things. Nantucket is ahead on many of those issues, but in some cases the vineyard has had, they have more resources, having 6 towns. So in some cases they've been able to do more research and advance certain topics more than we have.
So do we ever, Mary, on a large scale or the smaller area plans, contract out to a professional planning company, consultant?
For the master plan, yes. For the area plans, we would have to talk to the Plus department about budget, about timeline, about staff resources. I don't think that that is likely that area plans will get consultants, because that's not the intent of having an area plan. The intent is a grassroots effort. It's to hear from the people who live in the area. And their input should go to the planning department. It's not really intended that that consultants step in and start writing things and providing resources. I mean, it might be nice, but that isn't really the intent.
Right. Well, it seemed that, I do agree that it's wonderful to be involved, but if we don't hit it off, if we're not able to come up with something relevant, then I would just wonder about, gaining the public input in another way, like the series of public workshops,
We should absolutely be doing some public outreach and having public meetings. Yes, we should absolutely be doing that.
Yeah, like
Marcia, don't beat yourself too severely. Fleshing out this progress report, as you're suggesting, gives an excellent white paper for people to look at and react to in the subsequent public hearings.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I guess the one that I'll bring up, and and I apologize because I know I've brought it up before, but working on housing and working on the boundaries of our area plan, it's just time and again, it feels like I come up against the major core, the major part of our area historically and geographically is the commercial downtown. And so in talking about an area plan for the commercial downtown, where, I hear many concerns about its future evolution, its potential development. There, to me, would be such a complex one. It wouldn't be the island-wide one, but it would seem to be to warrant a contracted professional to begin to work on a commercial downtown area plan. But I only mention it because as I'm working on the different components for our area, it feels like a divorce, like we've been shut out of, something that is so much a part of the life of our area. And it's difficult to accept that kind of Berlin Wall around us, that they're there and we're here and we don't have an interaction going.
Well, Marcia, I think I agree with you strongly, although Mary Longacre may be able to bring us up to date whether there is a CDT, a work group being assembled. One of the concerns expressed to us at the beginning was that if we incorporated enough people from the commercial downtown, for example, Wendy Hudson, who is a member of the MPEDC, volunteered to be part of our group. But if we had a truly representative group of store and shop owners, inn owners, the various charitable groups that have their offices in the commercial downtown, we'd have to double the size. And so I guess I'm accepting the constraint, but I'm allowing us to make these comments in our draft. That the flow between this commercial downtown and the rest of the town area is constant, and it goes both ways. People go in, people come out. For example, Mary and I, Longacre and I, are working on circulation. Well, all of the, a great deal of the traffic in the town area is actually headed to the commercial downtown. So enough. I do agree, and I don't think we have to avoid mentioning it, but we'll accept the fact that Plus will create a separate group.
Yeah, Marcia, I wouldn't characterize it as a Berlin Wall. There are no snipers, I hope, but I would go back to my original or earlier comment that the goal of an area plan is to hear from the people within the area and to identify differences for that area from the master plan. And so if you were to put together a group of business owners and nonprofits and restaurants and so on from downtown and try and have a productive discussion with people who live halfway up the cliff and halfway to Manicat and halfway out to the school, the needs of those two groups are very, very different. And it doesn't make sense to try and put them together and have, a shop owner on Main Street trying to have input on a decision about living near the mill. It's just that the two goals are just so far apart. Even though the two areas are very intertwined, for what we're trying to do, it's just that they're not compatible.
Well, it wasn't that, I was trying to get it to be one again, but what I was suggesting is a consultant be contracted. And if they were working at the same time, we would have some interface between our group and another group working on separate issues, on similar issues, on, the impact that all the issues have on both areas. But if at least there was a group or a contracted consultant working on one of the most critical areas on our island, the commercial downtown, at the same time, it would be.
Don't forget that the master plan does cover all of the island, and certainly would have a focus on what goes on in the most important part of the island, which is the commercial downtown core with the ferry access. So, I would look for that emphasis in the update to the master plan. In a perfect world, there would be, an infinite amount of time and an infinite amount of money, and we could do all of this all at once. but we just do not have the resources to do multiple area plans at the same time. Mattakit was already underway when we started, and doing 2 of them at once is hard enough.
Mary, what is the status of the updating of the actual master plan?
It's hard to say. The master plan responsibility belongs to the planning board, not the NPDC. So I can't speak on their behalf. I know that we have engaged a consultant who has been doing some work to update parts of the language. I know that we were also hoping for the release of census data that has not happened. So that's an issue. Obviously, the COVID situation, the staffing situation, there are a lot of reasons why that has not moved forward more rapidly, but it is definitely, to my knowledge, something that is happening, just not happening quickly. And I certainly support the updating of the master plan, but there's just a lot going on right now.
So-
When was the last done?
I would have to look it up, because I think it's 2014 off the top of my head.
It may be older than that.
I'm looking it up. There's
While you're doing that, I'm going to back us up just a little bit into the housing issues. While not a great number, there are a lot of second and third stories of the commercial real estate in the downtown that may be occupied either seasonally or year round. It would be useful to know how many people are actually living in the commercial downtown. So one thing that we will be able to find out is whether or not there are any short-term rental permits in the commercial downtown.
So Mary, could you tell me if the planning board has control of the master plan? I guess I have 2 questions, but MPEDC has the area plan control. And if the planning board has the master plan, how do they have a staff working for them doing that, or do they have a volunteer group? That's a huge project.
Yeah, that is under the direction of the planning director. So yeah, it's a town function. The planning board is a town board. So it's handled within the planning department.
But
And
who
as I
does
said,
it?
obviously with a consultant.
Oh, so do we have access to how the work that they are doing?
Well, you have the current master plan, but no, I don't know what has been released of the work that is ongoing.
Or kind of like the minutes of our meetings, whether there's anything happening?
Again, I'm not part of
Yeah.
that pipeline. So
Yeah, no,
Reach
but
out
I do understand what you're saying, that if we wanted to have some information about the commercial downtown, we would find it in the existing master plan for the entire island.
right,
And
I will
likewise,
reach out to Megan for more information.
likewise, I assume there would be information in the existing master plan about the area that we're working on.
No,
No,
No.
really?
this is the first plan that's been done.
Yeah, but
Well,
what,
that doesn't mean that there isn't, as Marcia was saying, information relative to what we're doing in the master plan. I haven't, opened it up to look for
This
that.
is possible, but when planning and plus came into the town association originally, this was the first time this area had been done. That's what they told us.
yes, that I did understand, Henry. But we must at least be mentioned in this area plan somehow. I mean,
2009 is the when the previous area plan was adopted, master plan was adopted. And let me see if I can look for. Well, it's 115 pages. Marcia, I can just send a copy
Yeah.
to you if you like.
Yeah, no, I could, yes. You found that
But
on the town
It's
website.
on the planning board's webpage, if you go to the
Okay.
planning site.
Thank you.
I mean, there are things like the town and country overlay districts. And so I think the town overlay district is something that applies mainly to our area. It applies to a larger area than ours. It applies to Mid-Island, I think, as well. But I think there are definitely things there that that are relevant.
So while you're talking, I'm looking up the master plan itself. And there's something like 10 or 15 appendices. I'm just opening the first one. It's taking forever because it's probably very rich. Trying to figure out how they dealt with the individual local areas.
Mickey, when do you have to leave? Are you-
My
are
C
you-
meeting starts at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So, Mickey, is there anything you want to jump in with before you have to go?
No, are we, what time is it? Is it getting close?
Quarter out almost.
It's 3:42.
No, I guess that, you know what? You know, we're kind of like skirting a little bit around the issue of housing to some degree and starting to talk more about the downtown area or the commercial area. And I think that's what happened when Marcia and I were discussing our particular topic, is that it just seemed like, you know, what's going on in our residential area is sort of defined, and it's going to be hard to change a lot that's going on there. I think our job is to help steer it in the right direction going forward. But it seemed that a lot of the, you know, at least between Marcia and myself, it seemed that our bigger concern was the undeveloped or developable portion of the downtown area. That seemed like a real almost priority to our, you know, as we were discussing it. And I know that's beyond the scope of this group. But it just felt like if the downtown area needed an area plan, and because of this group, they're not doing it because they can only do one or two at the same time. It almost seems like that area would be more important than our area. But again, I don't want to sidetrack this discussion into something like that.
Yeah, so just very quickly, I did open up the first appendix. It was a sequence of maps. And for our area, it was called Town Residential, which was distinguished from Town Commercial. And the boundaries were not the same that have been given to us, but yeah, pretty obvious that they were treated differently.
So I'm just scanning through the master plan, and I would say, again, the area plan has a different goal than the master plan. The master plan treats the island as a whole. And so it doesn't, you know, it would look at commercial activity, but it would not restrict itself to the downtown commercial core. You know, it would look at residential or housing issues, but not restrict itself to, you know, separating those out by different areas of the island. The goal of the area plan is to highlight where, you know, where certain issues are more important to a neighborhood than deserve consideration for the entire island. So, you know, we are not waterfront, so we don't have, you know, tidal surge or flooding as an issue, but Mattocket does. So they'd want to hear from Mattocket, you know, what are the important things about that issue in your community? In our community, maybe the traffic circulation is the biggest issue. I'm just spitballing, you know, I'm not trying to make that the biggest issue, whereas it isn't somewhere else. So we're in the area plans, we're looking to the people who live in the area to say what is important to them. You know, in the context of all the different sections in the master plan, we're trying to look for, what do we need to be aware of that is important to this neighborhood. We're not trying to write a master plan for this neighborhood.
It would be nice to identify your, the developable parcels, the one potentially developable lot and the 13 undevelopable lots. Do you think you can get with Nathan? Marcia, Mickey?
Yes, as I mentioned, I'm meeting with Megan in the morning. Nathan, I think, has taken things as far as he can, but working with the PIN student, that's where we're focused on
Okay.
getting more of that data from the GIS maps. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a parallel, Henry, can Amy Baxter give us information about short-term rental licenses within our area?
I don't know.
She's the town's permitting authority.
Then I would think yes.
I would just encourage you to go to Megan. We are working under the planning department, and whatever resources she already has, she can help provide and help you reach out to other people. Look at her as a helper.
No, definitely. I mean, she has been. I've been working with her so far, and I meet with her in the morning. So yeah, definitely. I think it's a really important relationship that I really wasn't aware of for the last year, of being able to just pick up the phone and call her and say, we need some help. We can't do this on our own, and we'd like to get some more information. She's been great.
I'm happy to hear that.
She's a busy lady. Okay, anything else? Take that as a no. Next meeting, economic development. Allison and Mary, are you going to be ready to present?
We lost Allison somewhere along the line. And so the next meeting is the Friday, the 23rd. No, Friday, the 16th. Third Friday.
I didn't write it down, so I don't know.
I don't know what Allison has planned. I know that I am, up to my eyeballs this month. So I don't know that I'll be able to present on the 16th.
Okay.
So just our family travel plans, I'll be in England on that day, but I should be able to log in.
Okay.
Given the 5-hour time difference, I may have had supper and a drink before we start.
That should make things go easier.
No, it might mean that I'll forget.
So our first Tuesday meetings are now at 3 p.m. And thank you, Mickey, for going back to back on your meetings. And then, but our Friday meetings are still at 4 p.m. Is that correct?
I was going to put it to a vote for changing Tuesdays. We agreed to do this one. It's fine with me if we continue it. Definitely make it easier for Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
How about all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed? Okay. We will continue at 3 p.m. then. And I'll get with Reagan to make sure she's okay.
Henry, just to clarify, all of our meetings are now 3 p.m. or just the Tuesday meetings?
Just the Tuesdays.
Okay,
Fridays are at 4.
okay.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? I take that as a no. Motion to adjourn. Marcia? Okay,
Motion, yes. I got it.
second,
Second.
Nikki seconds, all right. I have 3:50 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
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 Okay,